Hello, friends. Welcome to our next conversation as part of the Parent Tween Connection Talks, where we talk about all kinds of things as long as they are relevant to life with teenagers and those pesky beings known as tweenagers as well. Today, I am joined by my friend Angela Melfi, who is the founder of Threads Worldwide, and she is here in the Colorado area with me, where I am currently as well. And we are going to be talking about some unique aspects of travel, but also connection with your daughter. Now, Angela's perspective is based toward daughters because that is her experience, but I'm going to guess that a fair amount of what we're talking about also relates to having sons or living in a non-binary world, your offspring, let's put it that way. So first of all, hi Angela, I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. Me too. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, here at Parent Tween Connection, we talk about anything and everything relevant to life with teens and tweens. And so when you and I first met and we started talking, you told me about your story with your daughter, and I was like, hey, this is a great message to share with other parents. And so we came up with two parts of our conversation today. The first one that we're having live out on YouTube about a purpose bigger than yourself. And this is definitely something that I know you have very personal experience in with your daughter, and that you wanted to talk about how to help your daughters and your kids in general learn to
Your
make a
offspring.
difference. Exactly, the offspring, right? How to make a difference in the world in what you identify as three easy and fun ways that can also expand your kiddos' communities. So why don't we start with like a brief overview of your history and then go into those easy ways to make a difference in the world.
Yes. So brief history about me is I've been married 10 years tomorrow. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so right tipping into that tween years. No, I
Hmm.
should say in the tween years. And then I started a company called Threads Worldwide, and my mission in life is to create work with women around the world. And so that's what we do. And through that, we've done a lot of travel. Ken has been around this, that's my daughter, has been around this conversation around a lot. She's traveled with me to a lot of the different countries where we work. And it's really opened up a lot of cool conversation about really, we could call it purpose, but also just our place in the world and
Hmm.
what we can do and how we can be a really global citizen and be part of this big, beautiful, crazy world that we're a part of.
I love it. And I do want to put a point in here. I don't know that I've ever actually shared with you, but one of the things that really drives us at Parent Tween Connection is that I believe the stronger that we can make the connections between the adults and the kids in our worlds, the less suicide we're going to have and the fewer kids we're going to lose. And one of the biggest steps that we can take to challenge a lot of the difficulties, like the mental health challenges that young adults face, is to help them develop that sense of purpose and to help
Yes.
them develop that sense of why am I here? Which, I
Mhm.
mean, that sense can change over time, but my goodness, if we can start helping them discover that early on and recognize that there is a purpose for them being here, that's a giant stride toward mental wellness in the long run.
That for them knowing that they belong, and then us in turn knowing we belong
Hmm.
here, we belong in these various communities. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So you said there are three ways that we can take steps that are easy and fun to helping ourselves and our kidlets find purpose in this world. Tell me what you got.
Yes.
What's number one?
Okay, number one. So first I want to just preface that I am, like I said, a mom of two, run a business, wife, all those things. And I know that we are limited on time. So as I put
Mhm.
this list together, I was thinking, what are things that we are already doing for the most part where we
Mhm.
can really weave and work this in? And the first one is shopping. So if you think about all of the places, all of the ways that you shop, whether it's grocery shopping, shopping on Amazon, shopping for gifts, buying gas, whatever it is, how can you work in the conversation for where does this come from? Who was involved? You might not know.
Mhm.
Getting curious with them. Well, I wonder what it took for this sweater to end up on this shelf, whatever store that you're in. Starting to get curious about where your bananas come from, your oranges come from. If you want to take it another step, and this might be for slightly older kids, although my 9-year-old fully grasps this concept, it's called fair trade. Fair trade is when we know that the makers, the people who make our things, are paid fairly and paid on time. And I won't go into a whole thing about it, although I've spoken about it a lot, and that's our business model is fair trade. But you can Google fair trade. What are fair trade principles? Okay, now I'm going to go start to weave that into this conversation. I fully believe that if you have this conversation with your kids and we could change this generation's way of shopping, it's a whole new world, a whole new future for us as humans. There's so many great documentaries that you could look up, how it's made, the true cost. Oh gosh, there's other ones that I'm forgetting, but you could go Google a couple of documentaries, and that's another fun thing that you could do together. That might be with a little bit older kids.
Well, and it also strikes me that as we learn about that supply chain, as it were, that also opens up conversations to directions they might want to go professionally, including
Yes.
entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have Amazon, where you can self-publish through KDP now. We've got Etsy. We've got all kinds of individual marketplaces, even in the local malls, antiquated things though they may be sometimes,
Yes.
it may feel like. There's one of my favorite stores in the mall is a place that has all local artisans and their representations or their works, or local fairs and, gift fairs, craft fairs, those kinds of things. That opens up a whole other conversation with them about not only how they can become consumers, but also how they can become providers of product or services.
Have your kid interview the person at the farmer's market who's selling the tomatoes. Where are these heirlooms? Why do these tomatoes look so funny? These heirloom tomatoes, why doesn't it look perfect and shiny like the one in my grocery store? Just those kind of interesting questions, which
Sure.
I learn about every single time. And I think I felt like a huge mom win when we were shopping once, and my daughter looked at me and we were shopping for groceries, and she said, "Are these fair trade? Are these bananas fair trade?" I was like, "Oh, yes." She's thinking about it. So it doesn't take much. They're watching us. This is something you're doing already. How could you make it interactive?
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, shopping, number 1. Number 2, and who would have thought that shopping can help you find your purpose in life? But we'll run with it. I love it. What's your
Yes.
second thought?
Exactly. Okay, so the second thought is travel with intention.
Mhm.
Now, you might think, well, travel, that sure would be nice. The last time I was on vacation was however many years ago. I'm not talking about that. Travel doesn't always have to equal a plane ticket. It could be these different cultural experiences that you have at home. Instead of going to, the Chick-fil-A, maybe you go and try to find a local Ethiopian restaurant, try some new food for the day. Maybe you go to a museum on a free day, when there's a cultural exhibition. Different ways that you can experience culture and something new when you're at home. It could be doing language camps for your older kids. It could be going to different children's museums on different days when they focus, like Dia de los Muertos. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's coming up. You could go and do some different events around that, and again, have that conversation. So bringing in the fun, bringing in something new, and having them be able to see a part of the world, maybe without even leaving home. Now, if you can go travel, we have amazing experiences when we take people on our mother-daughter adventure clubs. We go to Guatemala, and it's just an incredible experience for your kids at all ages to start to see the world. So if you have that travel bug, but you're not sure, like, will they be able to handle it? I'll say I've taken my kids when they were really babies, but even up like 4, 5, 6, and we'll have conversations while we're driving around. But what's different? What do you see that's different here? And it's just fascinating seeing things through their eyes.
So shopping and travel, and you bring some important aspects, I think, to considerations for travel. Because I think back to my childhood, and there just wasn't a lot of money at the end of every month, so
Yeah.
I can relate to not having the opportunity to travel a ton. I'm not personally as well traveled as some of my peers, but we've also got this thing called the internet where we can go explore and we can look for documentaries and we can look for movies from other countries and things like that could be traveling without even leaving your home. I like the fact that you emphasize that as an option.
Yes. Yes. And same thing. There are so many great documentaries that you can get that are very age appropriate. I wish I came prepared with them. But if you just go looking on YouTube or anywhere, you can find little shorts and things that show what it's like in different countries. Yeah.
So I'm going to interject before we get to your third point. And if you'd rather answer this after the third point, that's fine.
Okay.
So we're talking about, again, the purpose, helping them find a purpose bigger than themselves and helping us find perhaps a purpose bigger than ourselves. How are these tying into that self-identity or that sense of identity the shopping and the traveling?
Let me answer that at the end.
Fair.
I love
Okay.
that. Yes.
So what's your
Yep.
third point?
Yep, and so the third one is, and I left this one for last because this does take a little bit more intention and a little bit more time or planning, and that's to do micro acts of service. And I will say emphasis on micro to get it in as a habit. I'll tell you, back before I started my company, I had big grand plans to start nonprofits and all these different ideas. And it always was like, well, it's not quite right. It's not quite right. And so I realized I didn't do anything. I just didn't do anything because I wanted
Mhm.
it to be big and mine and all of that. So I'll emphasize the micro part of this. So this could be something like writing notes to seniors at a assisted living home.
Okay.
You could volunteer once a month together. And one of the things about this that I like is you're more side by side than face to face in these conversations. And I'm sure you do talks about this. I love your email about, tell me more, right?
Mhm.
Just little, these
Someone read
little,
my email.
of course. Yeah, I love that. Tell me more because, and what I think you said, don't go into speech mode, don't go into advice mode. I mean, that is me. As soon as my daughter opens her mouth, I'm like, I want to just say so
Mhm.
many things. And just tell me more is a beautiful way to do it. And I think also being shoulder to shoulder.
Mhm.
My daughter and I we had some tough times, right? But whenever we were working on some of the projects that we have in the Mother Daughter Adventure Club was when we were at home, we were working side by side on something versus like me jumping down her throat. How was school? What happened? What did the teacher say? All those things. It just sort of organically came out in these
Mhm.
projects. So that's why the third one takes a little bit more time maybe, but you can keep it really, really simple. Maybe it's starting a small fundraiser for something that's important to her so she can
Mhm.
learn about that kind of donating. Maybe it's making bracelets for to donate to foster care kids. There's so many various things that you can do that
Mhm.
put you really side to side that again open her mind or their mind to their purpose in the world and what they could contribute.
Well, and it also strikes me, I'm in a women's singing organization, and we have a number of women, not surprisingly, who are breast cancer survivors.
Yeah.
And so every year one of the local fundraising walks that happens, they've asked us to come out and sing the national anthem at the starting line.
Mm,
And so a
yes.
number of the women in the organization bring either their kids or, some of our members have grandkids. They'll bring the grands along,
Yes.
and to
Yeah.
your point, that they're watching us, and when I say us, like, they're not just watching mom or dad or,
Mhm.
their immediate family, they're watching everybody else, and when they see if you as a parent are engaged in one would argue social activity like that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, that when they see you engaging with other people, then that's just what they grow up recognizing is that you have friends, you have colleagues, you have a partner if you're partnered,
Mhm.
and that you go and do these things in community, and that's just the norm, and that sets them up for doing that down the road, even if they're not as active in it now, but they pay attention. They pay attention to, like,
Yeah.
the honorary aunts and uncles around, like me, and they
Yes.
see us doing these things, and they recognize that there's power in numbers, so I love that you do that. So, all right, or that you recommend that. So now
Yes.
let's circle back. How does the shopping and the travel and the micro acts of service, how do all of these tie back to that sense of identity for our young people?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't wanna say this, but you just answered it. It's being able to see yourself as somebody who participates in the world,
Mhm,
seeing yourself as somebody who has multiple interests, whether or not you think that it's a lesson really, but for them to start thinking about that, like you had the idea, okay, well, maybe it takes them on a different career path. These
mhm,
are just unique conversations that it doesn't take overhauling your life. None of us have time for that. It's how do
mhm,
we weave these purposeful conversations into the everyday? It's not even to like pick your purpose. It's to at this age get this big wide breadth to see how big the possibilities are in this world, and you have
mhm.
no idea what that will open them up to. So
Sure.
it's really more about exposure at this stage and being like letting them know that they're important and
Mhm,
um I'll say one other thing. My friend, she has a 19-year-old, and their relationship is like none other. And I was asking her, as somebody raising somebody 10 years younger,
Mhm.
what's the secret? And she said, I ask for her advice a lot. And that had never crossed my mind before because I'm always the one giving advice. But if you see them like, hey, what do you think about the sweater? I'm not the mom. Sorry, I'm the mom, but I don't know everything. Where do you think it came from? How do you think they got the color this way? Where do you think is this cotton? Where do you think it was? How did they make it like this? Those
Mhm.
kind of questions let them contribute back to you and really strengthen their identity as one built in confidence.
Mhm. So one of the things that I've heard from a lot of folks in the mental health world and mental wellness arena is that it takes one adult for a young person who's struggling. It only takes one adult to help that young person feel seen, heard, and understood, and frankly, validated to
Mhm.
feel like they matter. And so the things that you're recommending here, I think, fall right in line with that.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to what are your thoughts and genuinely being open to hearing their responses. I mean, I have a good friend of mine who has had a challenging year in her personal world, and sometimes she'll come to me for advice, and I'll much to her chagrin, sometimes I'll flip it on her and I'll be like, well, I don't know, what do you think? And she'll say something, and then she'll look at me and she goes, you're about to say, tell me more, aren't you? And I was like, because we each hold so many of our own answers. And so
Yes.
often our young people don't feel like the adults in their world see them as
Mhm.
individuals. They feel like we see them as mini me's. And so being
Mhm.
able to be like, hey, what are you passionate about? Like you said, like the micro acts, do you want to go walk the dogs at the Humane Society
Yes.
for
Or
an
for the
hour every
neighborhood
other week?
people. Yes. Yeah.
Or like my real close friend of mine's daughter is getting trained to be a docent at a history museum. They live outside of DC. Like, what a cool way for you to go do something like that with your kiddo to validate their experiences. And that's just, I mean, that's a volunteer thing, right? But that's not
Yeah.
necessarily a microact of kindness to a human. But like, what a great opportunity to bond, like you said, kind of shoulder to shoulder.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And they want to be heard. And I also think it's what you just said, it reminds me of, they also we want to train them that they can rely on their own themselves as well. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
said, well, what would you say? Like, oh wait, I don't have to go to everybody else to try to figure this out. I'm competent. I'm confident
Mm-hmm.
in my opinions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's so many places we could go with this.
I know.
That we could talk forever. Um, so here's my final question for you. And
Okay.
I typically spring this on our guests at the
I
very
was gonna
end.
say I'm not prepared.
It's all good. This is an off the cuff question. So everything that we do at Parent Tween Connection is established or is rooted in what I call the foundations of connection, where every letter in the word connection stands for a word or phrase that I think is an underpinning. I think it's a skill that we can learn because I believe some of us are just naturally good connectors, but for those of us who don't feel like we are, it's a set of skills that we can learn and develop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm going to rattle them off here, hopefully
Yeah.
slowly enough that they land for you and for our listeners. And for our listeners, these are on our website at parentweenconnection.com if you want to download a free copy of them. But I'm curious, which one kind of like pops most for you? Okay,
Okay.
so in the order of connection, create a safe place,
Okay.
observe, non judgment,
Mhm.
nod and smile, as in zip it.
Yes.
E is either explore or educate ourselves.
Okay.
C is challenge your truths or curiosity.
Okay.
T is take your time. I
Mhm.
is innovate.
Mhm.
O is own your own story.
Yes.
And then N is nurture.
Okay. Explore
Tell me
and
more.
educate. You know, I'm a lifelong learner in the way of travel, trying new things. And I think that's something I really want to embed in my kids. And
Hmm.
again, it doesn't have to mean a plane ticket. It just needs to be picking something new on the menu.
Hmm.
The other day, my daughter was literally doing that, picking something new on the menu. She's like, but I know I love this, but what if this is better? And I'm like, that is the risk. You know you're going to like this, but what if you like this better? And what if this really you don't like at all? But to explore and have that kind of curiosity, I don't know. There's so many things out there that I think that from a young age, if we don't watch out all the way through life, we could just keep shutting ourselves down. That's not for me. That's not for me. That's not for me. And now our view is very, very small of what's both possible and okay, and I think just being able to explore keeps the spice of life.
That's awesome. I love it. All right. Angela, for anyone tuning in, where can they learn more about
Yes.
Threads Worldwide?
Threads Worldwide is our Instagram, Facebook, and our website. Or if you want to get in touch with me, or my Instagram is Angela.threadsworldwide. We keep it
Awesome.
simple.
All right. So for those of you who are new to Parent Tween Connection Talks, we always have two portions of our conversation. The first one is public and out to the world like this. The second is exclusively for members of our Parent Tween Village community. Parent Tween Village is a community for parents like Angela and like you tuning in who have kids primarily between the ages of 10 and 20 who just say, hey, I want to be around like-minded parents. I want to learn from others. I want to learn how to broach some of these topics with my kids. And most importantly, I want to know that I'm not alone in this adventure of raising adults. So
Yes.
if you aren't a member yet, definitely check it out at parenttweenconnection.com. And Angela and I are going to head over there. We're going to have a conversation next entitled 3 Ways to Deepen Your Connection. And she says it's not what you think. We're going to explain some potentially outside of the box approaches to strengthen connection with our young people. So if you want to catch the replay, make sure that you come on over and check it out. So Angela, thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to part 2.
Okay. Thanks, Clarissa.
Have a great one, everybody.
Bye.